So we've been exploring some of the different board gaming ideas. And previously we were discussing this exploration of board game expansions. Now, I'm a completionist. I love expansions. I love piling on the expansions. But with certain board games, the expansions kind of not only add some bloat and add a lot of stuff that you might not get to even play in that single game. And we're not talking about setup time and breakdown time or trying to fit everything into one box so you're not dragging around 30 boxes. But also this idea, what I find where we pile on the expansions is sometimes it takes away from player interaction. We see this in board games that have expansions that take you away from the main board. An example, just to framework this before we jump into the board game in question, expansions, mega bosses, a new trend that is kind of interesting. If we look at Talisman, now Talisman is one of my favorite board games. I've pushed up some Tactica to the channel here under the Talisman playlist, but Talisman has this central board where you're racing to recover the Crown of Command. But it also has big box expansions that add on these corner boards with more spaces, the Highlands, the city, the dungeon, and the woodlands. When you play with 4 to 6 players, if you play with all the expansions, it's easy to miss player interaction. And player interaction in Talisman is basically running up and trying to mug the other player and steal their items, steal their loot, or remove followers. What often will happen is you're almost playing like a solo-based game with other players because I'm on the main board, you're over there in the woodlands, someone's in the dungeon, you never see each other. So sometimes these expansions will pull apart. But there are expansions that stack over the main gameplay experience. And a recent board game that does this really, really well, in my opinion, Horizon Zero Dawn. Now, in this game, you've got the core game experience, and you're working your way up to hunting this kind of mini-boss. You go on a couple of different hunts, you beat up on some machines, you scrap some parts, you trade in some gear, you level up, and the game essentially, it's a number of smaller hunts to help you level up and gain experience. And then the final hunt is kind of the winner takes all, or if you win the game or not. So it gives you a little bit of time to prep. And of course, you can decide to play conservative with leveling up, or you can try and really be aggressive in your leveling up. And the different machines have a pretty solid AI. So within that framework, what they've released, of course, is the core game. And then there's expansions that add on some more machines and some more hunters. Pretty kind of standard board game stuff. But following similar to Dark Souls, the board game, what they have are these mega bosses. It's a giant box, and the expansion is a single miniature. But this is not any, can you even call it a miniature? I mean, I guess technically anything of smaller scale is a miniature. These are massive, massive, massive machines. They're like 100 times the size of the actual figure, your actual hunt figure. And it's kind of like what happens after the primary board game. I liken it to you're watching a movie, you watch a movie, the movie plays out, and the credits are rolling, and you want to hang out a little bit because you know there's going to be like 1 or 2 quick little endings or quick little bonus content you want to see. That's what these, in essence, these mega bosses are. When you complete the main game, if you'd like, now you can go fight this one-off, winner-takes-all mega boss. So it's another layer over the game. And I find myself really enjoying this for a couple of reasons, but I realize it could be a little bit polarizing in that it stacks really easy. You just take the big boss out, mega boss, play it, fight it. But this idea of winner takes all. So you only get one chance at this. Now, maybe you've already won or possibly lost the main game. You've got some gear. Now it's winner take all. It's a mega boss fight. Where I could see it causing some challenges is you've already sunk in, depending on the number of players and depending on how much you want to farm kind of some of the lesser machines and really grind for gear, you could probably be in maybe 2 hours or so, 2.5 hours of gameplay. And then if you do it correctly, well, let me pull that back for a second. I don't want to say correct because I really think with board gaming, it's kind of suggestions. I'm all for house rules. I'm all for playing out different experiences and challenging different things. But if I play as rules as written, if I play raw, rules as written, you get one chance to fight this mega boss. It's winner take all. You've sunk in 2.5, 3 hours of play. Are you ready to do this? And maybe you're geared up, or maybe just with the drops, the loot drops and other things, you're not fully geared up. Look, you go to battle with what you have, not what you want. And can you make it happen? Have you gotten good? Can you make it happen? So I like these big mega boss expansions because the setup time is literally pull them out of the box and fight them. They add a new final end game layer to it with minimal heavy lifting. And it's kind of this winner take all fun end game. And you can experience it if you want, or you cannot experience. Sometimes when I'm playing at the club, it'll be going into the game saying, hey, we're going to play the primary game and we're going to see who can win the most glory, right? Horizon Zero Dawn is interesting because the board game, it's cooperative in that you all win or lose based on the hunt and based on being able to defeat the final machine. But you also get glory points. I think in another life, like maybe Klingon or something like that, just going for total glory. Like when I hear glory, I'm in. I'm ready. I'm ready to do this. So in Horizon Zero Dawn, you are playing together as a team, but there's also an internal ranking of glory points based on how well you fight the machines and how bold you are. I'm going for all the glory points. So this idea, when we go in, sometimes we'll say, hey, we're going to play just the core game. Other times we'll say, we're going to play the core game and we are going to add on this mega boss. So strategize for the core game for the glory points and that final hunt, but also be aware of your gear because we're going to fight these mega bosses. And then at other times, the flexibility of it, which is really awesome, is we can play, and I tend to bring everything with me to play, we can play the core game, the core experience, get that core hunt, that core machine, and then if people are really ready to go, where you're like, that was awesome, I'm really sad-faced that this game is ending, you want to face this model that's massive and take this on, or in the off chance that we played through kind of quick, and we've still got maybe 35 or so minutes before the club closes. I mean, yeah, we could pull out some Cave Troll or some Drakon, or we could fight this mega boss. So I love how this concept of an expansion mega boss stacks. And in terms of adding on, bolting on stuff to board games, minimal setup time, absolute player interaction. And I think I'm almost preferring this idea of a mega boss or a mega encounter or a final encounter as opposed to tons of sideboards and more bloat and more cards and more stuff. Maybe it's taking expansions, board game expansions, in a different direction.